Hi again. This is the review for Chapter 16 in anticipation of the midterm exam. And again, review the bullets on the Word document that was provided, review the quiz material, the homework material, and of course the PowerPoints. And then by going through this comprehensive problem at the end of the chapter together, hopefully that'll give you a better understanding of how to break these things down and solve them. Now, you won't be getting a problem like this in the exam, but you will be getting certain pieces of similar type situations that you'll need to solve. So going through this whole thing will hopefully better prepare you for any question that might be asked on any step of the process along the way. All right. We're given a whole lot of information on this decision toolkit problem, and what we need to start out with is accounting for the units. And this is different than computing equivalent units, which will be the next step. First of all, we want to account for the units in total, and we do that by looking at the information that was given, that we had 1,000 units in process at May 1st, and then 2,000 more were started into production in this mixing department. So we had a total of 3,000 units to account for. Now the next part of that step one is to determine the units that we need to account for based on the results at month end. So in other words, we know from the information given that we transferred out 2,200 units to the next department. In other words, 22 were finished in the mixing department. I'm trying to get this so it'll show better here. There, that might help. Okay, and then we had an ending work in process inventory of 800 units. So again, this is all information that was provided to us, and obviously 2,200 plus 800 adds to the same 3,000. So at month end, we've got 2,200 transferred out, we've got 800 left in work in process, so that still is 3,000 units that we have accounted for. Then we get into, as we look at the other side of this little whiteboard here, step 2 on determining equivalent units. Now, it states in the problem, as it does in most of these, that for process costing, that the materials are added at the beginning of the process. So with that in mind, as we drop down to the units accounted for rows here, and then to the equivalent units columns for materials and conversion costs, we can see that for materials, the number of equivalent units is the same as the total number to account for. That is the 2,200 transferred out and the ending work in process of 800, because again the materials are added at the beginning, so they are basically 100% complete as to materials. Now when we go to conversion costs, which again is the direct labor and factory overhead costs, there the situation is a little bit different. We know that we transferred out 2,200 to the next department, which means that those are complete as to the mixing department. So for conversion cost purposes, those 2,200 are 100% complete. But then we have the ending work in process at 531, 800 units, but only 50% complete. So therefore, our equivalent units for conversion costs only are 400 instead of 800, which is simply 800 times 50%. Okay, hopefully everybody with so far. Now, go to the next part of it. Hopefully you'll be able to read this. This is all in the book, but what I'm trying to do is go through it step by step and maybe add just a little bit more detail to what the text had here. And I apologize for these reflections, but hopefully you're still going to be able to read this. So now we go to determining the unit costs. Now that we know what the units are that we needed to account for, and for materials, we had a total cost of $149,100. Again, this is based on information that was given to us. And we look down below here on material cost, and you can see that that consists of the $49,100 of material cost that was given to us as part of the beginning inventory work in process. Then $100,000 of materials was incurred for the 2,000 units that were started during the month. So that adds to a total of about $149,100. Now the conversion cost of $26,520 consists of the amount of $7,200 from the beginning work in process inventory again that was given to us. Then you have to do a little deduction on the other piece of it, the $19,320, because you were given that the total cost of the units put into production of 2,000 was $119,320. Then you had 100,000 of that was assigned as material cost, and that too was given. So by process of deduction, 119,320 minus 100,000 material leaves 19,320 that had to be the conversion costs, the direct labor and factory overhead. So when you add the 19,320 for the units put into production of 2,000, plus the 7,200 from the beginning inventory that we were given also, that gives us our 26,520 in total for conversion costs. And that, when it added to the material of 149,100, gives us this total cost of 175,620. Then what we want to do is compute the unit cost. For materials, we need to take the 149,100, divide by the equivalent units of 3,000. That gives us a unit cost weighted average of 49.70. And now notice how that's a little bit lower than the material costs for the units that were put into production that month, because for those we had 100,000 of material cost, 2,000 units, so we had a unit material cost of $50 per unit for those units. But because we got the material a little bit cheaper apparently for some of the units that were in the beginning inventory, it averaged out to something less than that. Now for conversion costs, we've computed 2,600 equivalent units for conversion cost purposes. We had $26,520 of conversion cost total. So when we divide the 26,520 by the 2,600, we get 1,020 as a conversion cost per unit. Now then adding across the 49.70 material and the 1020 conversion cost gives us a total weighted average cost per unit of 59.90, and that's going to be important later on here. So again, here's the calculations of how we got the total material costs, the unit material cost, the total conversion cost that you can see there, and then up above the unit conversion cost, the 26,520 divided by the 2,600. All right. And finally, we have the cost reconciliation that was shown in step 4 of the problem. So now we need to account for the cost based on the number of units that were transferred out and the ending work in process inventory. And now we have the figures that we need in order to do that based on the previous steps. We know that 2,200 units were transferred out. We know that the weighted average cost per unit is $59.90. When we multiply those two together, we get $131,780. Excuse me just a moment here. I'm going to turn a light off and see if that might help this glare. Well, I don't know how much that's going to help, but hopefully it will a little bit. Now we're pretty grainy. But in any case, so the cost of the units transferred out, again, calculated by 2,200 times 59.90, $131,780. the cost of the ending inventory work in process at 531 consists of materials of 800 units, remember they're 100% complete as to materials, times the average cost of $49.70 gives us $39,760. And the conversion cost of 400 units, remember that's 800 times 50% complete, times the per unit cost, which again was computed by the total conversion cost divided by the equivalent units of 1020. Multiplying those two together gives us 4080. So that gives us a total cost for the work in process of $43,840. And then when we add those together, we get a total cost of $175,620, which reconciles with the total costs that we knew we had to account for. But then we have part B, which is the journal entry to transfer the completed units from mixing out of the mixing department and into the filling department. So that's what this is showing, a debit to work in process filling of $131,780 and a credit to work in process mixing of $131,780. So notice that the ending inventory for mixing of $43,840 remains in mixing and will be the beginning inventory for the next period. So hopefully that helps you to understand a little bit better, and that wraps up our prep for Chapter 16.